ਕੰਜ਼ਰਵੇਟਿਵ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਦੇ ਲੀਡਰ ਪੀਅਰ ਪੋਲੀਵ ਨੂੰ ਲੋਕੀ ਆਸ ਦੀ ਨਜ਼ਰ ਨਾਲ ਦੇਖ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ। ਜਿੱਥੇ ਪੀਅਰ ਪੋਲੀਵ ਨੇ GTA ਦਾ ਦੌਰਾ ਕੀਤਾ ਤੇ ਮਿਸਿਸਾਗਾ ਵਿੱਚ ਮੀਡੀਆ ਨਾਲ ਪ੍ਰੈਸ ਕਾਨਫਰੰਸ ਕੀਤੀ, ਉੱਥੇ ਹੀ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੇ ਹਰ ਮੁੱਦੇ ਤੇ ਖੁੱਲ੍ਹ ਕੇ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਵੀ ਕੀਤੀ। ਭਾਵੇਂ ਉਹ ਹਾਊਸਿੰਗ ਕ੍ਰਾਈਸਿਸ ਦਾ ਮੁੱਦਾ ਹੋਵੇ, ਇਨਫਲੇਸ਼ਨ ਵਧ ਰਹੀ ਮਹਿੰਗਾਈ ਦੀ ਮਾਰ ਹੋਵੇ, ਵਧ ਰਿਹਾ ਕ੍ਰਾਈਮ ਹੋਵੇ ਜਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਨਵੇਂ ਇਮੀਗ੍ਰੈਂਟਸ ਦੀ ਨਾਪਸੰਦ ਬਣ ਰਿਹਾ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਹੋਵੇ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਹਰ ਸਵਾਲ ਦਾ ਜਵਾਬ ਖਿੜੇ ਮੱਥੇ ਦਿੱਤਾ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੇ ਮੌਜੂਦਾ ਹਾਲਾਤਾਂ ਤੇ ਵੀ ਸਵਾਲ ਚੁੱਕੇ, ਜਿਸ ਲਈ ਮੌਜੂਦਾ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਨੂੰ ਇਸ ਦਾ ਜ਼ਿੰਮੇਵਾਰ ਠਹਿਰਾਇਆ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਇਸ ਮੌਕੇ ਨਵੇਂ ਬਣੇ ਸ਼ੈਡੋ ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਆਫ ਫਾਈਨਾਂਸ ਜਸਰਾਜ ਸਿੰਘ ਹਲਨ ਵੀ ਮੌਜੂਦ ਸਨ। ਇੰਟਰਸਟ ਰੇਟ ਦੇ ਲਗਾਤਾਰ 6ਵੀਂ ਵਾਰ ਵਾਧੇ ਤੇ ਫਸਟ ਟਾਈਮ ਹੋਮ ਬਾਇਰਸ ਦੀਆਂ ਦਿੱਕਤਾਂ ਦੇ ਮੁੱਦੇ ਤੇ ਪ੍ਰਾਈਮ ਏਸ਼ੀਆ TV ਵੱਲੋਂ ਪੁੱਛੇ ਗਏ ਸਵਾਲ 'ਚ ਪੀਅਰ ਪੋਲੀਵ ਨੇ ਹਾਊਸਿੰਗ ਮੁੱਦੇ ਤੇ ਆਪਣਾ ਪੱਖ ਸਾਂਝਾ ਕੀਤਾ।
Hello. My question is like landlords or homeowners today in Canada, they are crying. Reason is Bank of Canada, they raised the interest rate 6 times in a row. What is their fault? Because if someone's mortgage is $3,200, they have to pay $5,000 for the mortgage. So if $1,000 mortgage, 150 goes to the interest, 150 goes to the for the principal, and rest all goes to the interest. A landlord cannot increase the rent by more than 2.5%. So where are we standing today? What is the fault of the new immigrants, first-time home buyers, those who trusted the government, they bought the first home and today they are crying. And adding to this, NDP leader Jagmeet Singh, he said, I am attacking Bank of Canada in a different way and Pierre is attacking in a different way. I don't know what those different ways are, if you can explain. And attacking only Bank of Canada is not the solution. What is the solution? Because Canadians are suffering with these mortgage, and whole over the world we never saw every 2 weeks, every homeowner or a landlord, they are getting a letter. They can increase the rate once or at a time. We know how much we have to pay. But every second weeks, a mortgage is going high. And first, new immigrants, they trusted the government for buying the house. Now they are repenting why we bought the first house. What will be your plan on this? Other than firing the chief of the Bank of Canada. Thank you.
First of all, let's recap how we got here in the first place. $500 billion of inflationary deficits is bidding up the cost of the goods we buy and the interest we pay. More money chasing fewer goods always equals higher prices. The government printed money, $400 billion of cash. $1 in every $5 in the economy today was created in the last 2 years. That always leads to inflation. I warned that we would have inflation as early as the fall of 2020. And here we are 2 years later with the highest inflation in 40 years. The government told Canadians we'd have no inflation, that we'd have deflation. And they told Canadians that we'd have low interest rates for decades. So Canadians believed them. People took out variable rate mortgages for $1 million on the average home in Brampton or Mississauga. And now, surprise, rates are going up. Well, who could have predicted it? Well, I did predict it. I said that if you cause inflation, you're going to drive up interest rates. And that is an inevitable, just as night follows day. Frankly, Jagmeet Singh is part of the problem. He supported all of the money printing and the deficits that led to this crisis in the first place. So they inflated the bubble, and now what are they doing? They're popping the bubble. And all these deficits that continue to do is drive the problem worse, because when the government runs a deficit, they're buying more out of the economy and driving up the cost of things. Secondly, they're borrowing more out of the economy, which means they're competing with a scarce amount of credit. They're competing with other borrowers, and that drives up interest rates as well. So what do we have to do? We have to stop the overspending. Pass a pay-as-you-go law, requiring the government find $1 of savings for every new dollar of spending. Cut wasteful programs. The Arrive Can app, $54 million. The Infrastructure Bank, multi-billion dollars, that haven't completed a single project. The relentless growth in administrative and bureaucratic spending in the government, all of that has to stop. And then we have to produce more by getting the government out of the way so we can produce more energy, grow more food, and build more houses. In other words, stop creating cash start creating more of what cash buys. That is the only way to bring down both interest rates and inflation.
ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ ਮੈਂ ਜਸਰਾਜ ਸਿੰਘ ਹਲਨ ਮੈਂਬਰ ਆਫ ਪਾਰਲੀਮੈਂਟ ਕੈਲਗਰੀ ਫੋਰ ਇਸਲਾਮ ਤੋਂ ਅਤੇ ਸ਼ੈਡੋ ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਫਾਈਨੈਂਸ ਅਸੀਂ ਅੱਜ ਇੱਥੇ ਆਏ ਹੋਏ ਹਾਂ ਮਿਸਿਸਾਗਾ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਾਡੇ ਲੀਡਰ ਤੇ ਫਿਊਚਰ ਪ੍ਰਾਈਮ ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਨਾਲ ਪੀਅਰ ਪੋਲੀਐਵ ਅਸੀਂ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੇ ਸਵਾਲ ਜਿੰਨੇ ਵੀ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ ਉਹ ਆਨਸਰ ਕਰਨ ਆਏ ਹਾਂ ਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਹ ਦੱਸਣ ਆਏ ਹਾਂ ਵੀ ਜੇ ਸਾਡੀ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਪੀਅਰ ਪੋਲੀਐਵ ਦੇ ਥੱਲੇ ਬਣਦੀ ਆ ਕੰਜ਼ਰਵੇਟਿਵ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਅਸੀਂ ਕੰਟਰੀ ਨੂੰ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਬੈਟਰ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ। ਅੱਜ ਦੀ ਡੇਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿੰਨੀ ਮਹਿੰਗਾਈ ਆ ਜਸਟਿਨ ਟਰੂਡੋ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨੇ ਜਿੰਨਾ ਪੈਸਾ ਬੋਰੋ ਕੀਤਾ ਉਹਦੇ ਕਰਕੇ ਮਹਿੰਗਾਈ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਵੱਧ ਗਈ ਆ। ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੈਸ ਵੱਲ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਰੈਂਟ ਵੱਲ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਗਰੋਸਰੀਜ਼ ਨੂੰ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਤੇ ਜਸਟਿਨ ਟਰੂਡੋ ਨੇ ਹੋਰ ਵੀ ਇਹ ਮਹਿੰਗਾਈ ਵਧਾ ਦੇਣੀ ਆ। ਜਦੋਂ ਇਹਨੇ ਕਾਰਬਨ ਟੈਕਸ ਵਧਾਉਣਾ ਆ ਪੇਰੋਲ ਟੈਕਸਿਸ ਵਧਾਉਣੇ ਆ ਇਹ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਨਫਲੇਸ਼ਨ ਨੂੰ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਅਫੈਕਟ ਕਰਨੀ ਆ ਤੇ ਮਹਿੰਗਾਈ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਹੋਰ ਵੀ ਵੱਧ ਜਾਣੀ ਆ। ਸੋ ਜੇ ਸਾਡੀ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਬਣਦੀ ਆ ਪੀਅਰ ਪੋਲੀਐਵ ਦੇ ਥੱਲੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਹ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕੰਟਰੋਲ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਤੇ ਨਾਲ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਜਿੰਨੀ ਵੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਇਕੋਨਮੀ ਆ ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਬੈਟਰ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ। ਜਿਹੜੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਬਿਲਸ ਲਿਆਂਦੇ ਆ ਲਿਬਰਲਸ ਨੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਇਨਵੈਸਟਮੈਂਟ ਨੂੰ ਘਟਾਏ ਆ we will get rid of those and make sure be Canada ਸਭ ਤੋਂ freest country in the world. Thank you.
This is Justin Trudeau's economy. This is 7 years of Justin Trudeau. He has given us the highest inflation in 40 years, the fastest rise in interest rates, young people who can't find a place to live. He has given us record food bank use. He has forced single mothers to put water in their children's milk because they cannot afford their groceries. That is Justin Trudeau's record. How has he done this? Well, the cost of government is driving up the cost of living. $500 billion of inflationary deficits funded by money printing means more dollars chasing fewer goods, which bids up prices. Inflationary taxes, like the carbon tax, increases the cost for businesses and workers to make the goods we buy. The more Liberals spend, the more things cost. It is Justinflation. And they continue. We see more and more spending and a plan by the Trudeau government with the support of his coalition partner in the NDP to triple the carbon tax at a time when home heating bills are expected to go up 100% this coming winter. This is no time to triple the carbon tax. The Conservatives have been fighting tooth and nail against these tax and spending increases. Today I wrote the Minister of Finance and told her that our opposition Conservatives have a very simple demand for the fall economic update. Stop the inflationary deficits. Stop the tax increases. Canadians cannot afford to pay any more. Instead of creating more cash, we need to create more of what cash buys. Build more homes, grow more food, and produce more Canadian energy. That means putting pressure on local government gatekeepers at city halls across the country to speed up and lower the cost of building permits. Right now, we have the fewest homes per capita of any country in the G7. Why? Because it takes 6-7 years to get building permits, and so no one can get anything built. We should be the fastest place in the OECD to get a building permit, and I'm going to sell off the 15% of the 37,000 federal buildings to convert it into housing, so we have more homes for our youth. We need to get out of the way of our energy sector by removing the anti-energy laws so that our oil and gas and resource sector can produce more energy here at home, and that will make it more affordable for our consumers and more paychecks for our people. And finally, we need to remove the taxes, the tariffs, and the excessive red tape off our farmers so that they can produce more affordable Canadian-made food. I find it interesting that Trudeau says that Russia's invasion of Ukraine is the reason we have inflation. Well, first of all, we have less than 0.3% of Canada's trade is with Russia and Ukraine. But we don't need Russia and Ukraine for anything. In fact, the things they produce, food and energy, are things we have right here. So if we're dependent on Russia and Ukraine for food and energy, what's wrong with this country? We have the second biggest supply of oil on planet Earth. We have 1,300 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. We have the 6th most farmland per capita in the world. Why aren't we growing our own food and producing our own energy? And the reason is because the government is standing in the way with rules, taxes, and tariffs that are making it too expensive to do that. So get the government out of the way, remove the gatekeepers so that we can build more homes, grow more food, produce more Canadian energy. But none of this matters if we do not have safe streets. Our streets are increasingly ruled by gangsters and gun smugglers who are destroying our neighborhoods in all the big cities of the country. The shootings in Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal, the tent cities that have overtaken our streets since Justin Trudeau became Prime Minister. He has made it easy for people to get dangerous drugs. He's even funded some of these drugs. And he's lowered the penalties for the violent criminals who bring the drugs and the crime to our neighborhoods. We all believe that a young person who makes a mistake in their youth should have a chance to get rehabilitated and start over again. But when we see offenders who've committed 40, 50, 60 offenses, convicted again and again and again, released back into the neighborhoods to kill our people, then that is a threat to public safety. We saw it in Saskatchewan where the mass stabbing rampage, the killers had already been convicted almost 50 times. Why were they on the street? Justin Trudeau's weak laws have allowed repeat, prolific, violent offenders back on the streets. Instead of going after law-abiding, licensed, vetted, and trained firearms owners, the Prime Minister should put the money into securing our border to stop the inflow of illegal guns that Toronto police say are responsible for 80% of the gun crime. Seal the border, put the criminals in jail, and invest in early intervention in our youth to help them avoid a life of gang and guns. That is the solution. Right now we have a 32% increase in gun crime and violence under Justin Trudeau. His policies have failed. It's time for a new approach. We need a change. I'm running for Prime Minister to put you back in charge of your life and make Canada the freest nation on earth. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to my Shadow Minister of Finance, Jas Resh. Thank you.
Thanks for making me follow up after that, but I will say that today more than ever, newcomers don't see the same Canadian dream that many of us saw. Many of us came here as immigrants to get a better future, not for ourselves, but for our kids. But under Justin Trudeau, it's harder for people to even get to Canada because the immigration system is more broken than ever, causing more mental health issues in people that are wanting to get here. People wanting to get reunited with their loved ones are going through immense mental pressures. And on top of that, our businesses are suffering because they can't get the labor that they need in order to fill the labor crisis that's going on in this country. If we look at the people that are living here, they're hit with the cost of living crisis that Justin Trudeau has created, like Pierre said, that borrowing all this money has driven the cost up of everything. And those that want to leave to take a break can't even get a passport because that's broken too. So the people that are wanting to come here, the people that are living here, and those that want to leave are under immense pressures right now. And more than ever, almost 50% of the people, the newcomers that come to this country, don't want to live here anymore because they don't see a future for themselves anymore. And this is the Canada under Justin Trudeau. Pierre Poilievre, our new Conservative leader, has humble beginnings. He understands what Canadians are going through because he's been through those tough times. A born and bred Calgarian who came up from very, very humble beginnings with almost nothing, and today stands as our future Prime Minister of Canada. And he wants to see that everyone, whether you're a newcomer or you live here, have that same opportunity to live the Canadian dream that many of us in this room got to see, that we got to see. So thank you so much for being here with us. Thank you to our leader for always making himself very accessible to everybody and understanding the pains of everyday Canadians.
Thank you.
So thank you guys for coming. We'll be going through a list of questions. I'm going to be calling you out, so please just ask one question to start off. Once we get through everyone, at least once we'll try. If there's more time at the end, we'll start the line again. But we'll start with Simone from TLN first.
So recent census data show that almost a quarter of Canadians are immigrants. How do you believe the
Shazia Malik. Sorry, are you?
Yes,
Hi, Shazia.
Prime Minister, how are you?
Oh, thank you. Good, very well. Thank you, Shazia. Good to see you again. Thank you.
Okay, you just said that we have a lot of lumber, so then if we have, then why are we begging US to end tariffs on lumber? Number one. Number two, you have very relaxed immigration system for India. So why you are not asking their Ambanis and Adanis, who are some of the richest people in the world, to invest in Canada?
good, tough questions. You started so nice.
Because I see you there.
Thank you. Well, it's good to see you again. So on lumber, because we do produce so much, we want to have access to the American market. As you know, the Americans hit us with a softwood lumber tariff. They did this actually back in the early 2000s. Prime Minister Harper negotiated a resolution. We actually got back $4 billion worth of those tariffs. But then when that deal expired, Trudeau has been unable to renew it. And as a result, we're paying tariffs on the lumber that we export to the United States of America. That hurts our lumber sector. And we want maximum revenue from every single tree that we harvest. So my government will go to Washington and seek a deal to end the softwood lumber dispute and protect the Canadian loggers who work in that field. Well, frankly, we have enough lumber not only to export to our American neighbors, but also to supply our own housing market. We have such an abundance of forests, and we plant the trees in order to renew the forests. There's no reason why we can't have both strong exports and a strong domestic supply of lumber. And so that was the first question. How do we attract more? You want more investment from India in Canada?
Yeah.
Well, I think the problem we have in attracting investment from anywhere around the world is this is becoming a very difficult place to get anything built. So we have Canadians invest $800 billion more abroad than the world invests in Canada. That's almost $1 trillion that we're pushing out of our country that is building factories and pipelines and mines in other places with paychecks for other people. Why is that? Well, out of the OECD, we are the second slowest place in the world to get a building permit. It takes, on average, you take the average building permit time for everything from a house to a mine, it's 250 days in Canada. In South Korea, it's 28 days. The Slovak Republic is slower than Canada out of the entire OECD. So if you have money and you want to invest it to get a return, you'll shop around the world. You say, where am I going to get a return on this? They say, well, if I go to Canada, I'm going to have to wait 6 years before my project is approved, in which time there's no income being generated. They're going to say, forget it. They're going to go to Singapore, Switzerland, Australia, New Zealand, or countless other places where things get built quickly. We don't have to lower our environmental standards. We just have to implement them more quickly. You know, do we really protect our environment more in the 4th, 5th, and 6th years of the delay than we would if we checked the boxes in the first year? I don't think so. So we need to be the fastest place in the OECD to deliver permits for things to get built. Secondly, we need to reform our tax system so that it rewards investment in our country. And then thirdly, we need to get our workforce back. You know, our system punishes our young people for working with high taxes and clawbacks. We need to change it so that we reward work, so that there's investment opportunities that build opportunity here in this country.
Canada is not as competitive as it once was. People don't want to come here anymore because of cost of living, but when businesses are looking at Canada, they do look at cost structure. And January the 1st of next year, Trudeau's going to increase the payroll taxes as well. This is another thing that when companies are looking to move to Canada, this is something they look at. And if taxes are so high, we were not going to get workers either, even if investment was coming here. When people, as we know from outside of Canada, people will hear about different countries and where they can save the most money. And when you hear that Canada, you don't keep as much as you make, and it's only going to get less and less after these tax increases, it makes Canada less and less competitive on a world market. So Justin Trudeau and his bad policies, they need to, like Pierre said, stop. They need to get out of the way. It's those gatekeeping policies and the gatekeepers that prevent good investment, and whatever good investment we did have has been fleeing away because of him.
Again, not from Hamdard Media.
Good afternoon.
Yes.
There's a referendum going on in GTA area on Khalistan. It was done about a month ago, and the second one is going on November the 6th. And Government of India does not like it. Trudeau government has mum on it. What is your position on it?
Well, I'm not going to interfere with that. I believe in a united India. I believe in freedom of expression. People can express their views on that question however they like. It's not my role to tell them what they have to think or what they have to say. We live in a free country, and people can express their views freely on that, just like any other issue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rakesh Tiwari, Hindi Times Media.
I feel
Yes.
everybody has called you already future prime minister, so all the good wishes.
Thank you.
to Diwali. You have it already. My question is on foreign policy. October month is greatly known for the International Peace Day, 2nd October, of birthday of Mahatma Gandhi. In the whole world, as you know, that Russia, Ukraine, China, US, Taiwan, all issues, all these things happen. And people are greatly worried, other than economics and everything is trouble. They have a fear that might be possible that nuclear war may start. The question comes, when you become prime minister, what you will do to bring the peace and this tension which is rising, and people are really feeling helpless as being a common citizen. And lastly, in Britain, with the great hope, Rishi Sunak, who was a finance minister, you can say that, chancellor too, you have congratulated him already over there. And India is also emerging, despite this, all these things, they are doing better as per the media reports too. So your take on it, how you will take the Canada to the better road. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for first. Canada should promote peace and stability all around the world, but that also means being strong here at home. We need a stronger armed forces, and to stand with the free nations of the world against aggressive tyrannies that are using aggression against their neighbors. With respect to Great Britain, United Kingdom, I should say, I congratulate the new Prime Minister, and I note that he is not just the first Hindu Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, but he's also a conservative.
Yes.
And I look forward to meeting with him when I'm eventually in London. Prime Minister Sunak is a very accomplished person, and I have no doubt that he'll work hard for his people. And what was my vision for Canada is to make this is the freest country on earth, where it doesn't matter if your name is Mohammed or Martin, Singh, Smith, or Steinberg, that as long as you work hard, you can achieve your dreams. That's the country I want here in Canada.
Thank you. Nice to hear that your wife is from Venezuela. I'm from Uruguay, just a few countries south. The question I want to ask you, when I came to Canada a few decades ago from Uruguay, we were about 20,000 Hispanics in Canada. Now we are about 1.2 million. It's a different kind of population too. Interesting, in your opening remarks, you mentioned about selling, when you become prime minister, selling thousands of government buildings into affordable housing or housing for youth. And as you know, the Hispanic community and many other communities have a portion of our communities who are in that situation, having problem with housing, with renting, with mortgage, whatever. Can you be a little bit more specific on your plan when you become prime minister on this housing that you want to convert into housing for the people?
Yeah, so we've got 37,000 buildings in the federal inventory. Many of them were underutilized before the pandemic.
37,000?
Yes, right across the country. And the square foot per employee has always been very high in the federal buildings, which means there's a lot of vacancy. And that was before the pandemic, and then since then there's been a increase in remote work. So people are working from home, patching in by the internet, and that's fine. As long as they're working, that's fine. But why would we want to leave all that empty office space when we have a shortage of housing? So I propose that we selectively sell off 15% of it, and then we sell it to developers with a covenant that requires them convert that real estate into affordable housing, so that we can free up thousands and thousands of new spaces for young families to start their lives.
And last question goes to Sylvia from Ahora, Canada.
Hi. In 1999, you wrote, you were asked as Prime Minister what to do. And in that moment, when you were an international organization student, You wrote that to you, the most important thing it was to maintain the standards of freedom. Nowadays, we have so many challenges. My question in 2022 for you is still Pierre Poilievre thinking the same?
Yes, absolutely. That was my essay when I was, 19 or something. And I wrote an essay, as Prime Minister, what would I do? And I said I would work to make this the freest country on earth, because our number one strength in Canada is our freedom. You know, we have, the people in Canada are the same as the people everywhere else in the world. You know, in fact, we come from the rest of the world, with the exception of our First Nations. We all come from the rest of the world. So why is this such a special place? Because we have freedom, where people can make their own decisions, choose their own faith, express their own opinions, chart their own course, keep the fruits of their own labor. And the problem right now is we're losing that freedom. Bigger government means less freedom. It means more control over our lives. And the government has imposed the vaccine mandates. It's tried to control the internet. They've taken over more and more of the economy. That leaves less freedom and choice for the people. I want small government with big citizens, where you control your money, your views, your religion, your speech. I want to put you back in charge of your life here in the freest country on earth. Thank you. Thank you.
That's pretty much it, guys, for today. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll be back soon.
Mr. Poilievre, by the way, this is very respectful, because I respected everybody and came here, and they never got my question.
Do you have a question? Go ahead. Go ahead. Fire away. That's okay.
He was trying to
No, go ahead, ask.
No, that's okay.
you know what?
That's okay.
He was trying to teach me how to be polite.
Okay, no
I
problem.
don't like this.
That's okay. Go ahead. You have the floor.
Thank you so much. New Canadians, they came here. They believe they have to work hard, obey the law, and pay their taxes. When the rubber hits the road, the people who don't pay the taxes, okay, they do and get everything nice, and we who pay the taxes, our taxes, more than fair share, we get nothing, and we are getting poorer and poorer. How would you do this? And by the way, I do like your video about the passport. It's great.
Thank you.
Yeah. And how can you tackle this?
Thank you. Very good question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to be.
Not a problem.
But I don't like this.
That's okay. That's okay. Freedom of speech is a little messy sometimes. It's all right. Yeah, it was a very good question, because what we see is, as taxes get higher, the black market grows bigger. More and more money goes under the table. And we see that all around the OECD. You can put it on a chart. Higher taxes, bigger underground economy. I'm not saying it's right, but as people find they can't pay their own bills by following the rules, then they start to cut corners, and eventually it becomes very difficult for businesses, honest businesses, to compete, because all of their competitors are going around the rules. And so that is why the governments are not collecting more revenue as they raise taxes. The tax rate goes higher, but the revenue does not. Why? Because they're driving more money underground. I believe that we need to lower the overall tax burden on Canadians, so that that is one of the ways that we can reduce the tax avoidance and evasion that results whenever the government becomes excessively burdensome on the working class and the small business. Secondly, we need to increase enforcement on the fat cats, the guys who have the ability to move their money to fiscal paradises around the world that don't have taxes. They hide that money in the Caribbean and in other places, and they evade their lawful requirements. I think the government should invest more money in tracking and prosecuting international tax evasion, so that we can actually bring that money back and put it into our coffers, and then lower the burden on the hardworking, law-abiding people like yourself who are carrying too heavy a load right now. Right now in Canada, taxes take up more of the average family household than food, clothing, and shelter combined. That's because government has gotten too expensive. We need to cap the cost of government to leave more money in your pocket and let you get ahead. And that's what I pledge to do.
Here, here.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Friends,
thank you.
That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you so